the class we have talked about different type of variables. Okay, so you need to be careful. Right? Anytime you're doing analysis, statistical analysis, you like first of all understand what type of variable you're dealing with, so that you pick the proper analysis tools, technique on it. Right? So it's important. Let me see if this is a link. Okay, so it's too small. Huh? So I'd like to quickly talk about your term project paper. Right? Generally, the step involved in a research like this that involve data collection. Right? This I can consider that as a scientific research. Right? You start with a research question. Well, you took a science class in even elementary school. I think your teacher mentioned what are the steps involved in scientific method. Right? Start with a research question. Okay. Then to collect the data that will help you to answer the research question. Then you're going to organize the information, right, summarize the information, and draw your conclusion. Okay, so kind of like there are 4 steps, right? So when you write your paper, you can also do it that way. Right? First is introducing the problem, right? Why you're interested in such a problem, and it'll be good if you can go on internet and try to identify some article that actually related to the kind of thing that you talk about. It may be behavioral, maybe other things, right? And you can cite that in the reference section if you want. Right? So first section is about questions, right? Second section is about methodology, how you collect the data, in what way, right? So that your data really is good data for you for answering the question. Okay. Oftentimes when people write paper, they also mention what kind of software you use. Of course, we use SPSS. You will use SPSS for the analysis. Okay. So the second one is this. And sometimes people mention possible bias that may occur, right, in the data collection, so that people be warned first, right, when you try to interpret the outcome. And then third step will be the actual analysis. Okay. And usually people will first report the descriptive statistics, some tables, some charts, all right, describe the data, and then inferential statistics. You do some testing, you do some estimation, all right. You report that, and the last one will be the conclusion. All right. Concluding your result and suggest further research, or sometimes people still even mention bias or possible problems in your data. So warn reader, right, that when you're reading this result, what should you be careful about, right? So this is pretty much this document is about, right? So I quickly mentioned that. Let me see, maybe I can go to my website. So this is our term project page, right? Let me make it smaller. Right. I've shown you this last time. Okay. So when you go home, I encourage you to read about it. This is a page actually I created. There's so many links, right? But I did that earlier, but usually when you try to get the data from there, it's pretty time-consuming to deal with. Usually they're large data survey. A lot of them collect data nationalized, and then you have to know some code to download and then get the data ready. If you like that experience, right, you feel free to go there, right, to collect data. If you have trouble, you can always come to me. Most of the time, the student in this class, usually they collect the data themselves. Like I said, they go to the mall, they stop at the stop sign and observe, or went to the cafeteria, whatever, right? So not many people really go there. This is actually something that I wrote. I tried to explain term paper. So this is pretty much what I said. First thing you do, I said you can have a group of 3 people, so you can identify 3 people, 2 people you really like, most I want to make friends for a long time, whatever, right? And brainstorming the idea, and come up with the idea, then you can go split out or whatever, right? Maybe hang out at the mall and collect the data as a group. Okay. So you want to do it as early as possible. Okay. So identify a group of people and form a team, and then start figuring out what kind of research question you like to use. Right? So that's the important part. First thing, you want to define your research question. Right? Is there more than 30% of people wearing sneakers or Nike shoes at YSU campus or something like that? You want to define that first, right? That's the first thing you do. As far as inferential statistic, okay, that's inferring some parameter for a population. Right? We will talk about that later on in the course. But these are the typical things that you definitely will learn, all right? And most of the students would work on the use for their project. In our class, we're going to talk about estimation or hypothesizing for average of a population, average GPA for YSU student, average amount of money people spend at McDonald's or something like that, right? It's an average. So you want to understand, of course, the average of a population, all the customer visitors by McDonald's, but it's hard, right? You want to estimate it by taking a random sample and estimating it. So that would be a kind of thing that you can do. Okay. In the past, I had students who went to Wendy's and tried to listen to the cashier. Oh, this is $5.69. Oh, we record that. So this bill is $5.69. So what they do is estimating average amount, right, for those bills or every time a transaction happens. Okay. And that could be things like this you can do. Okay. And sometimes this is a possible thing too. You try to compare two groups. Average bill from McDonald's and average bill for Wendy's. Is there a significant difference? Or is Wendy's higher than McDonald's? So what will you do then? You will take a random sample of Wendy's customer and random sample from McDonald's customer, right? And then use that for your study. Some people actually visit several McDonald's locations, several Wendy's, because they believe that this area is poor area, right? So people spend less, and that area, rich area, so people spend more, right? I don't know, right? But if that's your concern, that's what you want to find out, you can use that as a question. Am I making sense? So that's one possible thing you can try. P, and this is pi. Actually, Greek letter P is pi, right? Okay, I think you know that. So P stands for percentage or proportion. So you can do a study like estimating percentage of people who have certain behaviors or whatever. Okay, percent of people, like I said, wearing Nike sneakers at YSU. You believe that it's less than 20%. Okay, so your goal, your project will be like estimating exactly what percent. Also answer that question whether it's less than 20%. Okay, so if you have something like that, right, that'll be good. Right? Not necessarily Nike shoes. There's something else. Make sense? All right. So that's a good research topic to talk about. And of course, this is about comparing two. So you believe there's a difference between male and female, right? There are more female wearing Nike shoes than male. Is that true? Okay, I can do that. Right? You do a test on that. You can also do an estimation for the difference. Now, if the difference is almost zero, that means there's no difference. Right? A lot of time when people answer the question of whether there's a significant difference between the average, they also produce a confidence interval. We're going to learn that. Interval estimation for that difference. If that difference is very small, that also is an evidence about whether there's a significant difference. Okay, so that's actually kind of a type of topic that you can look at. Okay, makes sense? And we're going to also, well, that's what statistics really about. A lot of statistic project is about this, whether there's a correlation. Okay, is there age significant factor for having heart disease or not, right? Or using different drug, right? Does it have any correlation between the heart disease status or not? Okay. Gender, male and female, right? Your gender, does it correlate with the color of shirts you wear? Right? You may be exploring or interested in what percent of people wearing red shirts, right? Are there more female wearing red shirts or male wearing red shirts? Is there correlation between gender and whether wearing red shirts or not? Okay, both of these are categorical, right? Wearing red shirts or not, it's categorical. Gender is categorical, right? So you can study whether there's a correlation between these two categorical variables. That's a good topic to work on. Not the gender and shirts, but there are other things. Right? I think gender and shirts, some people work on that. Right? But you can try other things. But you know the idea, right? Okay. Correlation between two quantitative variables. You know what quantitative variable is, right? Height and weight, if there is a correlation. Right? That's something of interest. Okay. The distance from your home to school, is there correlation with a student's grades performance? Right? Probably not, right? But if you're interested in that, distance is a quantitative. Grade point average is quantitative, so that's two quantitative variable. There are methods for analyzing the correlation between the two. If you have one is quantitative and one is qualitative, that would be like this: gender and percentage of Nikes, right? Percentage is quantitative, gender is qualitative, right? Is there a correlation? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm saying too quick. Actually, this is it, right? This thing actually is almost like a correlation between two qualitative too. Right? Percentage, you have wearing Nike or not wearing Nike, right? You have gender, so still two qualitative. In fact, I'm not going to even talk about this topic in the class, because the method that we use for studying correlation between two categorical variables is good enough to answer this question also. But this one actually has a quantitative and qualitative. Male and female, and maybe, did I say any example? What did I use as an example? Anyway, male and female and their GPA, for instance. Right? GPA is quantitative, gender is qualitative, right? So although we're studying the difference between the average GPA between male and female, but in this study there are actually two variables, right? Gender is categorical and GPA is quantitative. Right? For that situation, you can do this difference between mean study. Okay, so in our class we're going to cover all these 6 types of actually. This can be combined with the 5th one. These type of study, we will talk about this later on in the course. So when you're picking and determining your research project, research question, you want to look at these, right? And your project probably will be just like on one of these topics. Okay. For your term paper, you need to report descriptive statistics, which we will review that very quickly. Some charting, some descriptive measure like mean standard deviation. That's the first part. That's a midterm project. Okay. And at the end, you will do the final project. Just insert the inferential study, right? Estimation, testing hypothesis, put it on your midterm paper, and modify it a little bit. Right? Maybe your conclusion will be kind of different from what you said based on descriptive statistics. Okay. Right. So good. So this is actually what I've just shown you, right? These 4 different stages. And so in your paper, I suggest that you will have these 4 to 5 sections. Actually, this is kind of 4 sections with the appendix or reference section. Right? Introduction, methodology, analysis, and conclusion. That will be a paper like. I think that sample paper is somewhat like that, right? 4 sections. Let's see. And week 15, you're going to do a presentation, right? What I'm planning to do is at the Tuesday, week 15, you do the presentation, and Thursday, week 15, you're going to do the exam 3. So if we do that, you don't have to take final exam anymore. At the final exam time, you will turn in your final paper. Okay. But during your presentation, I would give you a suggestion. That if you did something wrong, I'm going to let you know. So you want to correct that in your paper. And remember, each of you have to write your own paper. Okay. You can work together, do analysis together, and help each other out so everybody understand what's going on. That will help your presentation too. Right? But when it comes to writing, I'd like you to write your own. Okay? Good. So I hope you have a good idea about this term paper. Right? It's not going to be very time-consuming. It will take a little bit of time, right? But it's not going to be way time-consuming, especially if you're down the data collection in the first half of the semester. Usually you're not so busy, right? And gather that data is very quick. I think the trouble is the time-consuming part is finding out a research question. Right? So gather your group together and quickly find a research question and collect the data, you'll find it's not going to be too hard. Yes?
So you're saying that a group of a couple of students could have like the same set of data as long as they're writing for a paper on that data?
Same data, same analysis. Right? You can do same analysis. Right? Use exactly the same analysis, even same chart. That's fine. But when you come to writing, you want to write yourself. Okay. Now, I do encourage you to help other people who are weaker, right, or weak, not really understand the situation. You explain to them. You help them, right, to learn. It actually helps yourself too. When you try to help other people, you will think. You think about the whole process, and that thinking process is a good practice. You help others, you're actually helping yourself too. Okay, so I do encourage that. But when you come to writing, you just have to write it yourself. It's a good practice, right, writing a paper. Okay, you may have to do that in another class, or probably you have already done a lot in another class. Right? This is probably a small piece of cake, right? So anyway, right. Any other question about the term project? Okay, it should be good. This should be fun. Right? When you write this project, I want you to label your table like this. You have the table title on top of the table. This is close to the APA format that I mentioned. Okay, so anytime you have a table, you want to put it in this format, right? When you have a figure, you want to have figure number on the bottom, right, and a little title, right? That's a format of figure and chart. And I'm really picky on that. If you don't have this, at some point it's definitely going to be taken away. Right? But it's a good practice too. In the future, if you want to write some professional paper, a lot of places use APA style and have a table like this. Well, otherwise, you see other format, it's similar to this. Okay, so make sure you do that. Actually, I have some links. You have the example paper, right? So this is what is this? This is actually this is that paper. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I hope you're cool with the project. Right? It's not a hard one, right? But just you have to start it early, to get it done early, get the data collected early. Right? So, and if you have any questions, feel free to stop by my office. My office hour is 2 hours. The 2 hour